Hey everybody, sorry for the delay. Oh man, alive. Just crazy. I was setting up here. This is going to sound like one of those teacher, the dog ate my homework sort of things. But I was setting up here and suddenly there were multiple pops and the lights went on and off in the house. And then there were flashes coming in the windows. A local kid apparently was flying his kite from there's a field a ways away from here, and the kite went down into the power line just over the house, like dragged over the metal roof of the house, hit the power line, and pop, 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 pop. So I went out and to check on it, make sure all the kids were okay. We couldn't find the kid that was flying the kite, but I think it was just connecting to the roof. But the power company is on their way. So if for some reason this just goes out, it's because the kite has been yanked on or something, or it started raining and it blew up. So hopefully, if this does not work out okay, we will organic journalism. If this does not work out okay, we will do this thing again because things happen. So if it blows out, this is a topic I really want to cover. Let me see here if I can watch the thread. Okay, yeah, I mean, I actually, I was trying to make I actually made a torch on a piece of bamboo and was trying to burn through the line, which just seemed like the safest thing to do. And, because cutting it, I would actually have to make a connection, but if I had a flame going up to it, but the wind is just whipping right now, and it looks like there's a rainstorm coming in, so it just kept blowing out. So anyhow, yeah, that would have been an exciting way to go, wouldn't it? I was simultaneously burned and electrocuted. Anyhow, so I do not live in Florida. I am far, far away down in the equatorial tropics. All right, so sing Wonderwall. Oh. Maybe at the end. Maybe at the end. We kind of I held everybody up long enough this time. So, Alan, Aaron, Raven, Alejandro, Mio, Leaf. Nice to see all you guys here. Al. All right, so let's jump in. I want to show you something here. Amy K wrote me, and she said, let's see if I can do this. I just wanted to share a couple photos that are inspired by your Compost Everything philosophy. I really needed to clean out my fridge today, so I made a trench and threw in everything I was throwing out, and then topped it with a couple alternating layers of leaves and dirt. And it does have a little of everything in it. Leftovers, a failed ferment of okra, the cardboard containers, and there is even half jar of grape jelly in there. The ice cream container just held random veggie scraps. You said compost everything, so I hope you approve. Yes, I absolutely approve. Check this out. Here's the stuff from her fridge. Take all that stuff out of your fridge. Don't throw that in the landfill. She instead dug it into a trench and added fertility right back to the soil. Plants actually often suffer from grape jelly deficiencies. That's a little known fact. All right, so. All right. I went to see David the Good. We listened to Portishead and tried to get kites out of the power line. And again, if I do get cut, if the power does cut off, they are on their way, and I wouldn't be surprised if they turn it off outside. So if we get cut off, we'll try it again. There's always tomorrow, and tomorrow is another day. All right, so transplants versus direct seeding. What I'm going to do is run through some of the benefits of both, instead of being really negative and saying, I only direct seed, or come on you guys, why are you bothering with seeds, let's direct transplant. We're going to talk about the applications of both and when it makes sense. And since we're coming up on spring gardening season, it seems like a really good idea. No, Amy K. Amy K says, glad you like it. I was worried. I put my thick-soled rubber boots on there just to show you, just because I was going to play electrician, but oh well. Amy K says, glad you like it. I was worried the jelly may be too much. No, look at, I mean, I've composted goat organs and lasagna, so no, don't worry about it. Of course the jelly's not too much. What's that sugar going to feed? It's going to feed the fungi and the bacteria in the soil. So it's great. Do it. Nationwide is on your side. All right, so let's look first at the reasons to transplant. I think that, you know when it gets to spring and you haven't really prepared as much as you wish you had, and you're going through Walmart or Lowe's or Home Depot or something, and you see all those transplants and you think, look at that. It's instant. I can put in some broccoli. I could put in some cabbage. Look at this. They put corn in there, melons. Some of them make sense, some of them don't. But let's look at the reasons to transplant. Here are my reasons to transplant, which I spent over 5 minutes creating specifically for you guys. So, reasons to transplant. Number 1, instant garden. Yeah, I mean, you got all that stuff. You got a nice piece of dirt. You can get your tiller out there and tear up a piece of ground in 10 minutes. And then rake it all out, and then drop in your transplants. Boom, instant garden. I mean, you could be done in an hour. And that, that's nice, right? I mean, it's quick. Now, this is if you are buying transplants, obviously, because if you were not buying transplants, if you were growing your own, it's not instant. You've got a lot more work to do. So the second one is beating the cold weather by starting early. There are some times when you have a short growing season. Some places only have 90 certified frost-free days. If that's your situation and you got a crop that might go 100 to 110, you want to kind of get it through the juvenile phase indoors as best as you can, so you have the time to transplant out. Another reason that I will sometimes start things in trays and make sure that I'm doing transplant versions instead of just throwing the seeds out there is that I'm either not sure that my seeds are going to germinate well, or I have a rare variety that I don't want to lose. Like, you put it in the garden, right? It's out there in nature. There may be insects that come and eat the seeds, or ants might dig them up, or cutworms might take them down right after they sprout. There's a lot of iffiness to it. And if you have a few seeds of something you really absolutely don't want to lose, maybe you want to baby it right from the beginning, so it doesn't have any trouble. So there's another good reason. If you have a rare variety, like for example, I had a few seeds from tree tomato. I'm not going to stick those tree tomato seeds right out there in my food forest or in my garden. I want to make sure I don't lose them, so I'm really careful, and I planted them all in a pot. A couple of them came up. One of them died from damping off in the pot, and then the other one was just starting to look really good, and a cutworm got into the pot. So it doesn't always work, but the idea is it would have been safer in the pot, but somehow that cutworm was very persistent. So I feel like my hair is sticking up sideways here tonight. It's like the beach look, I think. That's like the trying to get things out of the power lines look. So the next one is it's good for slow germinating plants. I remember when I was a kid, my parents knew that I was into gardening, and I had my own little plant nursery going in the backyard and all that stuff. And so, I was like way into plants. And so they decided to take me down, I think it was to Homestead, to go see a commercial nursery where it was during the winter, and it was actually getting a little chilly by Florida standards. So it was getting close to cold weather. So I remember we kind of bundled up a little bit, which meant it was probably in the 50s. And we went down to go check this nursery out, and they had the big propane heaters, and they had tanks, like these areas, I don't know what you call them, like big boxes where they had all these little in vitro propagated orchids that they were raising. They were raising them from tissue culture. And most of this stuff was way over my head. But one thing I really remember was that they had quite a few varieties of rare palms. And with the rare palms, palm germination on some varieties is very slow. It's very irregular, and it requires specific conditions. So they had all these flats of probably vermiculite or perlite or something, a loose mix, with the seeds just kind of almost laying about halfway in of all these different palm varieties. And they had it under specific conditions, And I remember the guy saying, okay, these are coming up on about 14 months here. We have a 50% germination rate so far, so a little longer. And I'm like, I mean, I remember reading the back of the seed packets when I was a kid and saying, this thing takes more than 7 to 10 days. I'm not planting it. I want it to come up like 3 to 5 days, like radishes. Good, I'm going to plant a lot of radishes because I'm really impatient. But when it said 14 to 21 days, I'm like, that's never coming up. There's no way. Of course, I've gotten a little better at that, as I've gotten older. But it seemed like forever back then. So if you have slow germinating plants, they can tend to be overrun by weeds or other plants in the garden or whatever else. So there's another good reason to transplant. And you ran out of time and Home Depot has a sale. This one is, you're like, oh shoot, let's see, I've got like 1 more week before it starts to get too warm. I got to get some cabbages or some kale or some Brussels sprouts or whatever in the ground. My hair, that's crazy. It really looks, it's really kind of weird. I think I'll just go with it. Yeah, that's good. Right there, it kind of matches. It curls here, and all right, whatever. So the last minute, I need to make a garden. I am running out of time. You didn't plan ahead. Then you just go ahead and go with it. So there are some reasons to transplant right there. And here, let's take a look at reasons to direct seed. All right, reasons to direct seed. Less time involved. Now this is if you are direct seeding as opposed to growing your own transplants, because growing your own transplants is quite a bit of process. So if you are ready to get your garden in the ground and you don't have transplants that you've bought and you're not interested in growing transplants, cut a little furrow in the ground, plant more seeds than you need, let them come up, thin out the ones you don't want, and boom. It's very easy to deal with seeds. The other thing is less infrastructure involved. If you have started tomatoes or basil or anything like that indoors, there's a lot of things that can go wrong indoors. They get really leggy. You got to have a lot of light. The police can bust into your house and take all your stuff. Growing indoors is kind of, it's not natural for plants. So you really have to create an exact environment to pull it off. The infrastructure, you also have to have trays, you have to have potting mix. You can't just go out and have some nice garden soil and plant it right in. No, you've got to plan ahead. You've got to have your watering set up. You've got to have your lights set up. You've got to have your trays. You've got to have, all that stuff. And you got to label everything, all that stuff. So, oh, it's all right, Finca, that you're late. I am really late too. It's okay. We're all, a lot of people were early, but we had a little bit of electrical issues, so we may still have electrical issues. So less infrastructure involved with direct seeding. I find it very simple to buy a packet of seeds and put it right in the ground. A stronger root system. You have a stronger root system. You plant it right in the ground, right? If you plant in a little tray like this, and you've got a tomato plant that's coming up and it's like 6 inches, and then you have 2 inches of little tray, that's not a normal root system. Often, let me show you something here. I was going to show you this next, but look at this. This is a carob seedling that I started right here. This is some years ago. I took this photo. This is a little tiny seedling. About 1.5 inches of it was above the ground. You can see that pale yellowy mark on there. And then it gets darker. That's where it was in the dirt. And this long curly queue of a root was probably an additional 8 to 10 inches or something. So maybe 1.5 inches above ground and 10 inches below the ground. See, it's like an iceberg. If you are direct seeding, you are allowing the plant to go right where it wants to, right from the beginning. And you're not disrupting the roots. You're not going to have the roots curling up on the inside. You are not slowing it down that way. Another thing that I always hated was hardening off the seedlings. I mean, that's just a pain in the neck. Oh, you got to put it out for an hour the first day and 2 hours the second day. Make sure they get a little breeze. Make sure they get full sun, but not too much full sun. They've got to adjust to the outside conditions, whatever. Because they did not start growing outdoors, they're really weak, and you've got to kind of strengthen them up. So you harden them off. You make them ready to go conquer the world. If you've direct seeded, you don't have to worry about that. they're adjusted to the climate, they're adjusted to the amount of sunlight right from the beginning. They're designed to just jump and do that. Basically, they're designed to adjust to the situation that they're in. So you put them in a really cushy situation to begin with, and then you put them in a rough situation, they suffer, and sometimes they die. So you have to kind of talk them into it. You know, you just don't tell the kid the dog died right away. First, you got to say, well, the dog, you know, he seems to like have some allergies, and the allergies made him run away. No, don't do that. Don't lie to your kids. Just tell them the dog died. But you know, you get what I mean. You just poof, right into it. So here is another thing here. Plants get to grow. The plant gets to grow without disruption. The transplanting shock is a big deal for plants, and there are some plants that really don't like it. Like when I see melons for sale in trays, or beans, or corn, it's like, why did you do that? They don't even like to be moved. They don't like to start that way. Particularly those big seeded plants, they are way better just putting them right in the ground and don't shake them up. A lot of times you can't transplant them well enough to keep up with a seedling. You will gain time by simply putting seedlings in the ground. Seedling varieties will often grow better right in the ground with, you know, they'll outgrow the transplant. The transplant was this big and you plant a seed next to it. Boom, the seedling just outgrows it by the time this thing is recovered from the PTSD of being transplanted. And then the last thing is, seeds are way cheaper than transplants. A packet of seed is like $2 or less. So throw the seeds in all over the place, no big deal. If you bought a flat of transplants, I wrote all about this. I did a big write-up in one of my books, and I meant to bookmark it first so I could show you guys. Probably Grow or Die or Totally Crazy Easy Florida Gardening. I don't remember which one. Probably Grow or Die. Seedlings versus transplants. When you transplant, you know, you might spend $3 or $4 for a 6-pack of plants, whereas you could have gotten 200 seeds for $3 or $4. So it's cheaper. So here's another thing I want to show you here. One of the things I really like to do, you guys probably saw my video on jackfruit, planting jackfruits right in the ground. This is a jackfruit seedling at the previous property, and you could see that is a very healthy and happy jackfruit. That thing just is great. And as a matter of fact, I went and visited it. I met the new owners, and I went over and visited to see how this little tree was doing, and it was quite well. I mean, it's about 5 foot tall right now. Downside is it got nailed with a string trimmer a few times, so it's not as happy as it should be, but they do way well in the ground. So if you saw my video that I posted earlier on planting jackfruit right in the ground, I think that direct seeding a lot of fruit trees really makes a lot of sense. So let me answer some questions here, and then we'll go on a little further. See what I got. Let's see. Cutworms are the devil. Absolutely. Derek Clausen says, I'm afraid big box store plants are treated with nasty stuff. Quite possibly. QAnon says, I live in Florida and I have a problem with fire ants. How do I get rid of those organically? They infest all my pots. I do not know of a good way to get rid of them organically. I would use that Amdro bait, and it was the least toxic way to get rid of them that I could find, and I really couldn't stand. They destroyed a lot of things in my gardens. They would get in my nursery pots, and they would bite the children, and I said, forget it. I bought Amdro. It's not particularly dangerous at all. Just don't put it in your eating areas. The plants will eat the ants will come and eat the bait, and then they die. So I don't mind. I don't mind using that stuff because the fire ants are a nasty invasive, and they're more of a problem, I think, in this situation than the pesticide. Now, maybe that doesn't make me a good person or something, but I really don't like the kids getting bit up by them. They're nasty, and they will. I mean, I had them destroy all of the potatoes in my garden once, so I put Amdro on the pathways and just let them die, and it will get rid of them pretty quickly. Usually in a week you won't see them anymore. Let's see. Alan says, if I won't eat it, I won't put it in my garden. Yeah. I mean, you could pour boiling water down into an anthill. That will get rid of them, particularly if you have sandy soil. I used to do that to get rid of them, but when they got into my potted plants and into the garden, I couldn't pour boiling water there. So, yeah, there you go. Oh, Rehoboth Farm says, "Oh, cow, I have had a hard time with trying to germinate medjool dates. I have one that has survived to be a toddler." Okay, here's how I germinated dates. I went on a picnic with the children, and I bought one of those somewhat expensive packages of California dates. This was years ago when I lived in Florida. I got a package of the California dates, and I told the kids, you can each have a few dates, save the seeds. So we passed around dates until everybody had eaten up the dates, and we saved all the seeds. Then I took them home, I rinsed them all off, I rinsed all the sweet stuff off them, and then I put them in water to soak overnight. Then I planted them in vermiculite and just slightly dampened it. And then I covered it and put it on top of the water heater in the dark. And in about 2 months, I had about a 15% germination rate. And then I gradually adjusted them. I put them in the light on the back porch. And then I potted them up. And I had some that were about this big when I left that I had planted out in the yard. So that's all I know about dates, but they'll take 2 to 3 months to come up, and maybe some dates germinate better than others. This new Jen says, here in Wisconsin, good evening, good evening. Date night was good. We had fun. Yes, reused plastic forks are good labels in the garden. Bella says she uses them for labels. Good idea. Yeah, use them until they die. Or else some sea turtle will get it up their nose or something, you know. Nancy says, but Dad, the dog's not moving or breathing. Now, son, it's sleeping. It's just sleeping really good. Finka says, so I just sowed a ton of sunflowers from bird feed. They seem to be coming up fine. Any tips on growing sunflowers? Not really. They seem to like fertile soil. They get real shrimpy if they don't have fertile soil. They like high fertility, and I actually had some luck transplanting them, but it's best, I think, to stick them right in the ground. Quincy says, chickens eat most of what I direct seed. Don't let chickens in your garden. Yeah, that's the way to deal with that. I would not let the chickens in my garden. They're just way too destructive. If any animal starts costing me more than I'm making off it, I don't really want it anymore. That's kind of brutal, but the garden would pay for itself, whereas the chickens in the garden, they're going to have to pay a lot of eggs to get rid of destroyed beds, you know. Rehoboth Farm says, how do you feel about pelleted seed? I don't have any problem with it. I mean, it's usually, I've heard it's just inert stuff that they're pelleting them with. If I'm wrong, well, I have made the seed bomb balls like Masanobu, Fukuoka, the seed balls, where you take some clay and roll wildflower seeds into it and throw them all over the place. It's more fun than it is practical. The rainy season really has to be working with you. Beans and melons, definitely plant them direct. They don't like it. None of the cucurbits seem to like to move, with the exception of the perennial cucumber, which will transplant easily. What does jackfruit taste like? It tastes kind of like pineapple and a little bit of pineapple and vanilla. It's very sweet, a little bit of fruit punch flavor. It's delicious. Very, very good. Unfortunately, I am quite allergic to it, so I can't eat it. But I can eat the seeds. The boiled seeds taste rather like boiled peanuts. I can't eat those. So my kids love them. They just eat them. They'll eat like tons of it. Nancy says, I'm afraid to direct seed living in the desert. Yeah, I mean, you got to work with what works. I would direct seed anyhow, water them in really well at the beginning, and then the roots will want to go deep for that water. They're probably going to be stronger than transplants. Ants do not like cayenne pepper. You know, but I tried that on fire ants. I tried cayenne pepper and I tried cinnamon to keep them out, and they just push their way right through it. So, anteater as a pet, that's not a bad idea. David Rain says, if you start seeds in a greenhouse, do you go by the start indoors in the seed packet? And do you still have to harden off seedlings from a greenhouse? No, they don't seem to need as much hardening off. If you're getting the regular sunlight through the greenhouse, or most of it, they generally transplant okay. I wouldn't worry about that so much. They probably could use a little hardening off, but leave the greenhouse open now and again so they can get the temperature difference. Yeah, Gardner Earth Guy says, never put Amdro on the hill, put it nearby on the mound. They think the bait is attacking and won't eat it. They're like, get it! 7 dust also works. Lee Washington asked about 7 dust on anthills. 7 dust on anthills will work. You just dust a little on the top and they just all die. And then, like, the UN sends peacekeepers and stuff. Borax gets rid of ants and is a natural element. It's even beneficial for some plants. Yeah, actually, I just bought a big box of borax for the boron. I'm going to mix it into some of my homemade organic fertilizer mixes. It's close to organic, I guess. I don't know anything about germinating potato seeds, but I would assume they would go like tomatoes. Justin sends a $5 super chat, and he says, you inspired me to bury compost and plant a tree on it. Can I use used coconut husk cat litter for this? If you're planting a tree, I don't see any reason why not to. If it was in the garden, I would worry about toxoplasmosis. I would avoid it in the garden. But if it's just coconut husks and cat droppings, I wouldn't worry about it at all. I'd plant it right, dig it right underneath the tree. The tree will use it, and it's better than throwing it in a landfill, Definitely go for it. And actually, if there's yeah, I just wouldn't put too much in it because you don't want it to be too hot. So let's see. Ryboth Farm says, I usually leave the ants alone. They eventually move on. They do work for me. I don't have kids, though. They do. They will do some work, but they will also destroy some stuff, too. It's kind of... They kill a lot of the natural ecosystem, at least in Florida. I was the same way. Until I had children, I didn't worry about it. But there's nothing like smacking about 40 stinging ants off your screaming 2-year-old daughter to make you just want to kill all the ants. Daughter will be out there, picking some strawberries or something like that, and next thing you know, you're screaming. She's got bites all over her. They come up and they'll just crawl up the legs, and they get to a certain point, and then they all signal bite, 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 and it's awful with little children. They can really get hurt. And I had them actually creeping into the house and that sort of thing. Sometimes they came in through the outlets in one house we had, and they were chewing holes in the laundry. That was in Frostproof. That was the worst fire ants I ever saw in the world. Were in Frostproof. Let's see here. What do you think about survival seed vaults? I don't have a problem with them. Yeah, DE can work at times. I mean, it's worth trying. Buying fruit seeds online, your thoughts? Buy them from people in the US with good ratings on eBay. I think it was BT World Seeds that has a great selection, but I don't think anything from them germinated for me, so I don't use them anymore. It's actually hard to get good tree seed suppliers online that I found. I did have some luck buying pawpaw seeds on eBay. You got to make sure that they came from a fresh fruit and then were stored in cold storage in slightly moist medium. People have to know how to take care of them and keep them, or else it's bad. So don't buy anything from China, Indonesia, wherever overseas. It's almost always a scam. Adam Kadovia says, David, a local store is selling a fruiting loquat tree. I know loquats are ripe for a few days before rotting. Would it be wrong to take some of the fruit off of the tree and plant the seeds? Yeah, I used to nip cuttings occasionally and take seeds and that sort of thing, but I actually started to feel convicted about it, and I quit. Now, if something is growing in an unkept lot, a tree's just dropping fruit, rotten fruit all over the ground, that sort of thing, I figure I'm just going to help the tree out. Nobody cares. But if it's in somebody's property or somebody's yard or in a nursery, I just won't do it. I figure thou shalt not steal sounds pretty airtight, and I figure even if I don't get caught, God is watching. I don't want to do it. So I have actually found most of the time that if I just ask, if I tell them, look, at this fruit is going to rot in a day or so, may I just have this? This is so cool, I would like to take it home. A lot of times they don't even care. So, yeah, I mean, I understand. I had a friend tell me, he's like, dude, if you go to, Epcot where they have all those plants and stuff, bring a baby stroller. If you bring a baby with you, you can just keep stuffing cuttings underneath the baby. I'm like, are you serious? Okay, that's demented. Don't do that. I would just ask. It's funny. I've gotten more sensitive to that sort of things over the years. I'm like, I don't feel good owning something that I stole. I just don't. It just is not good for me. Every time I look at it, I think, you're kind of a jerk. And I just don't like to have that. I mean, people's conscience is different, but I don't see a reason for it. I understand the draw. There's nobody around to ask. I really need this plant. But I have found that I have been overly provided for on other occasions where I've asked and somebody said, oh, you want some of this? No, you want some of this? No, you want some of this? Particularly if you join like gardening meetup groups, join a local permaculture group, join a seed savers group. You can just go and ask people for stuff, and people just bring tons of things, and you can pass it around. And it also, it gives the person a chance to either be petty or to be generous. And a lot of people like to be generous. They like the opportunity to give you something. And I've had people say, people just steal stuff. I'm so glad you asked. Here, do you like these? And do you like these? And then they'll like take me around back and show me their garden. And I end up with being friends with somebody. So it's good. People like to do nice things for other people because it makes them feel good. So you give them an opportunity to. That's probably enough on that. But so let's see what we got here. Yes, Richard Alvarado says, in other countries, food sharing is common, especially fruit. Yeah, very much so. We found that when we moved here, people would just bring us stuff. Just show up and bring us stuff. Hey, we baked this for you. Hey, here's some potatoes. Do you want some potatoes? Hey, here's this, here's that. Here's a fish, and it's like, wow, thank you very much, All right, so back to planting directly in the ground. Deanna says, email me. I will send you a Loquat seedling. I have lots. So Adam, Deanna, I don't know if you want to post your email. Get some fan letters off of people on YouTube. All right, so let's get back to this here. I just wanted to mention, I find that direct seeding some things like nut trees and fruit trees often works very, very well. I have had very good luck with pawpaws, with persimmons. I've had luck with hickory, with walnuts and pecans, with this is jackfruit, obviously. Papaya does very well, and some things that have large seeds. You can see how in the video that I just did, I knock a hole in the ground, I put a ring of rocks around it so it's foolproof, I'm not going to miss it, and I plant the seeds right there. There's no worrying about the taproots getting broken off. I actually started jackfruit from seeds a couple of years ago and put them in pots and then gave some of them away. And then I took one and I planted it at a property where I was doing some work. I said, I'm just going to give you guys a jackfruit tree. And so I picked a spot and I put it in for them. And I came back and visited a couple weeks later. It yellowed and died, turned brown. It just did not like moving. They're really touchy. Another thing that's really touchy about moving is pawpaw, but the northern pawpaw, Asamina triloba, not carica, papaya, not papaya. The pawpaws, they do great when you direct seed them. And what you do to direct seed them is get a fresh fruit, eat it, take the seeds, find the spot where you want to plant them, plant multiples in the ground in case you lose some, and then mark it somehow and put water on it, water it in when you start it if it's dry, and then basically you're just going to wait through the winter. It's gonna need that chill period of the winter, but you'll find sometime, usually March, April, May, you'll have the little sprouts coming up. Then you let them grow for a while. You select and get rid of the ones that are not the best. Leave one good one right there. Or if you want to dwarf it, leave like 2 or 3 there and see if you can get a multi-trunk that grows a little shorter. So go right in the ground. You can do the same thing with most nuts, like walnuts and pecans, or hickories. You plant them in the ground. I had good luck with chestnuts. I had good luck with avocados, putting them right in the ground, let them grow. It's less to think about. Now, you have to remember where you put it. I remember one spring walking around with my wife in the backyard, and Rachel and I are just kind of talking and visiting the chickens and stuff. And I'm like, man, there's a lot of little seedlings coming up here. I was like, oh, wait a minute, those are American persimmons. And she goes, you planted those? I guess I did. That's right. It was last fall. I just went around with a stick and I just jammed holes in the ground because the kids were eating persimmons. When the persimmons were ripe, the kids were eating them off a tree in the neighborhood. I took all the seeds I just had all the kids save the seeds on a plate, and I just took them and jammed them all on the ground all over the backyard, and I figured, well, they'll show up. I don't even think about it anymore. I just stick things in the ground sometimes, and then I forget that I did it. And then later I'm like, wow, that's such a surprise, you know? So it's crazy. Yes, the National Germplasm Acquisition of the USDA, they will allow you to get seeds for research purposes. But they will sometimes ask you, you know, what did you do, how did it go, and all that sort of thing. Which is fine, it's kind of fun to report. Marauder, my brother, says, Loquat grow in coastal Virginia. I think you are zone 8/9. You do get snow, though. It will grow, but you will probably not get fruit. The blooms are like cold hardy to 28 degrees, I believe, but the foliage is cold hardy to like 15, 16, something like that. I mean, they can actually go much colder than the blooms. The problem is they tend to bloom in like January, February, and that's obviously not good. So to grow them there, I would plant it probably flat up against the house, keep it heavily pruned, and south side of the house, maybe espalier it and see what happens. Or I would plant it out in the yard and then there's going to be a freeze event, put multiple barrels of water around it, cover the thing, or put a heater underneath, cover the thing, and just keep the blooms alive. All you need to do is keep it around 30 degrees or something like that in there, and then it'll survive. Let's see what we got here. So there we go. Finca has the link to the USDA site. Harold asked, did avocados do well in Florida for you, David? Yes, pretty well. I actually never grew up any to fruiting size, but I had them pretty big when I left. There is an avocado in the South Florida Food Forest Project that came from an avocado. The pit was from a massive one. You'll see the tree when anybody that's coming. I still have a few slots left. We are up to, I think I've got at least 40 people that are going to be attending. And so if you want to attend the Food Forest Workshop in Fort Lauderdale, it is on March 16th. I will be there. There are people bringing seeds and cuttings to share. There is a lady that is actually making up t-shirts for the event, which is really cool. She's got Food Forest shirts that she's designed. She's going to be bringing those. And it's $40 a person for adults. Kids are free. If your parents are really old or something, you bring them for free. I don't care. But basically, it should pay for my tickets at this point, which would be good. And I really need to raise some money for another camera because mine is on the fritz. As you probably noticed in some of my more recent videos, things are starting to look a little blurry and fuzzy. I'm having some issues with the humidity, and I'm having issues with the card not working properly. So if we we do a nice Food Forest event, get a camera out of it, that would be awesome. And we're gonna have fun too. So it's not about the camera. It's gonna be cool to see how that system looks after a few years. It's been a few years since I've been there. Randy asks, "Are you taking video?" I'm gonna try. I'm probably going to see if I could just I'm gonna see if I can buy a camera and have it shipped there because I'm just not trusting mine at this point. And it's been kind of in and out. I've done some filming. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say goodbye to an expensive camera, but the humidity and the rain and everything it's rough. It's rough. So I'm probably gonna upgrade the camera and have it shipped there, and maybe I will have my son, who's going to be there, film. It's going to be a couple hours long, so I don't know if we're going to film the whole thing, but at least part of it. It'd be fun. It's going to be great. So, let's see. We got any more questions? You know, Alan is asking about a meeting in Central Florida. I am actually going to be in the Ocala area on the 17th, 18th, and 19th, but I haven't found any place to host and invited people over to. Most people are like, they don't know if they want like 40 people with Compost Your Enemy shirts showing up. I'm going to be there to film some video, though. I'm going to go to the old food forest. The lady that owns it has invited me to come back. She's like, okay, you can come film. I'm going to actually do some work for her while I'm there and see if I can identify some plants and things that she's got. So I am going to be in the Ocala area on the 17th, 18th, and 19th is what it looks like. Raven says, I am in Orlando the 19th. Alright, well, maybe we'll just have to catch up. So, Carolyn says, come to my place in Gainesville, Florida to do an event. Alright, drop me an email. david@floridafoodforests.com. Maybe we can put another event. It's almost 5 hours north of Fort Lauderdale. So for those of you that are further north, maybe we can get 20 or 30 people together. It'd be fun. Let's see what we can do. And I'll just make sure, because I am borrowing rides and everything. I'm basically like, I don't have a vehicle in the States or anything. So it's like, hey, I'll hitch over here and I'll hitch over here. Somebody's going to give me a ride at one place. I'm kind of going to go here and there. So Jerry says, have you ever visited gardens in Canada? No, I haven't. I went over the border to Canada once, felt guilty, and then enlisted for Vietnam. No, not really. I went over the border once when I was a kid, and just to say we went over the border, but I didn't see anything. I mean, there's some great... Canada has some beautiful country from what I've seen. My new camera workshop, that's right. FGCU in Fort Myers has a food forest. I have heard that. I think somebody from there wrote me at one point. The Broward County Rare Fruit Council wants me to come to their meeting on the 11th, so I'll probably be there. There's another good food forest over on the other side of the... I'm trying to remember where it was. People write me about projects. I mean, somebody from the Park Service wants me to consult on a food forest project. I just don't have time. I can't, like, I could spend my whole time doing food forest consultations. I kind of want to hang out with the nieces and nephews too, you know. I'm going to start singing these and see if I can answer them as we go. I am coming to Polk County. I'm going to be in Frostproof probably on the 19th, 20th. Joe 51 says I'll come to the Gainesville one. LOL at Pazzazzone, San Giorgio, South Florida seeds and cuttings do me no good. It sounds like I'll be missing a good time. Well, okay. That is much closer to me. I'm in Hernando County. Take the train up to Gainesville from Fort Lauderdale. Running out of lyrics, guys. Somebody throw me some lyrics. If you are on the West Coast, come visit the Bay Haven Elementary Food Forest. Alright, let's see. Oh, I didn't even know you worked, Austin. Gotta get back to work. Man. No, I'm not gonna say that. My daughter never dries her hair when she gets out of the shower. This truck ain't driving. Alright, here we go. I know, Austin, man. You work harder than I do. Words. Can you do a Papaya song, please? Let's see. We'll start with a... pawpaw. People will argue to the blue in the face which one they mean when you say pawpaw, pawpaw. Ask me to try loba, northern pawpaw, relative of soursop, relative of cherimoya, Nona, or the tropical pawpaw like in the Jungle Book. Carica papaya, not a real tree, still tastes good, and they're often free falling on the ground. Those dang papaya seeds sprouting like nobody's business. Papaya so yummy in the tummy, I wanna eat them all day long. Jerry says, I think you'd really be impressed with some of the gardens in Canada. You know, in the summer, not much to see in winter. No, I imagine not. He will bring happiness in a pipe. He'll ride away on his silver bike. And apart from that, he'll be so kind and consenting to play. That is weird. Those are weird lyrics. Sounds like Bowie. Kind of like Bowie lyrics, but mixed with fish. We got a super chat from Karen Hill for $1.99. Thank you very much. There's some. It's camera money now. It's not seed money right now. I'm just doing camera money at the moment. The new Canon 80D, so I can still use my Canon, my good lenses. The 80D is like $9.99 for the base, and but I mean it's worth it because it takes beautiful video, and my old 70D has paid for itself now after 3 years. So. It's up to the 80D, better autofocus, and I can use it with all my old stuff. So we're gonna get it. Oh, let's see. My brother says, you guys are great. I've got to run. I watch Star Trek with the kids at night. Original Star Trek, naturally. Yes, naturally, before it became UN in space. Noni song. Arch Animate says, that's Donovan's fat. I don't even know what that is. Oh, Donovan's fat angel. Oh, my goodness. You know, if we had enough people in Canada that wanted to get together, I think there's only like 20 people in Canada, right? But if there's enough to put together an event, I might even fly up there. I'd love to see Canada. My Tanayashi persimmon is waking up. Been in the ground a few days, waiting for the fuyu to show some life. You stink, but I love you because you smell, but my plants love you. The number 30. It's how many Canadians there are. David says, David the Good, is it hard to grow tobacco? No, it's not. I actually wrote a booklet on growing tobacco. If you look up the Survival Gardener's Guide to Growing Your Own Tobacco, it's on Amazon. I've also written about it on my website, and I've got some videos on tobacco germination on the channel. It is not hard. Once you know how to, the trick of germinating and growing it up until it's big enough, that's not a big deal. Raven, thank you very much for the super chat. I hope we'll find a way to run into each other. That'd be cool, at least for your daughter's sake. And Peter, thank you very much for the super chat. Much appreciated. Karen, thank you for the super chat. Kenjo, thank you. Kenjo has a question here. 5-year-old avocado from seed, no flowers or fruit tips. Okay, here's the deal with avocados. They can, in very extreme circumstances, flower as early as 3, 4, 5 years. Generally, though, you're looking more at 6, 7, 8. Unless you graft them. If you graft them with one that's already going, you can get it to go faster. So basically, the above the graft thinks it's a mature tree. You get it from a tree. That wood is much more likely to burst into bloom. So go for grafting if you want fruit fast. If you want to find out what kind of avocado it's going to make, though, you don't want to graft on it. In that case, and you want to get some fruit early, you could take one branch and graft it and maybe get some fruit early and then see what the rest of it turns into. You know, for fun, you can Franken-tree it. So I would just take as good a care of it as possible, make sure it has mulch, make sure it has regular water, feed it up, and then just let it grow. The faster it grows, the more, the more it's going to feel ready to make fruit. But you may be looking at another year or two. Harold Hunk says, how do you combat spot fungus on tobacco non-toxically? I am not sure. If you wanted to go without any toxins whatsoever, you could. I have had luck taking a little bit of kefir juice or yogurt, mixing it with some rainwater, and spraying it. And the lactobacillus in there seem to eat away and kill the molds before they die themselves. So that can help sometimes, but I'm not sure for sure. Oh, that's all right, Karen. I appreciate it. Deanna says, I was given a Dorset apple and an Anna apple. I mixed up which was which, and one died. 5 years later, the remaining one is blooming. Is there any way I can tell what type of apple tree it is? Yeah, I think the Dorset makes golden fruits, and the Anna, I think, is somewhat self-fertile, so you may actually get some small apples on it. They're weird. They'll make like a half-size apple. So see if that happens. If it doesn't, you may have the Dorset. I don't think the Dorset is self-fertile, but don't quote me on that. I think the Anna is partly self-fertile. But what I would do is go and get 2 or 3 other varieties of apples, graft onto the branches there, and then you know it's going to have a pollinator. Just graft a couple of branches. And apples are the easiest thing to graft. You can almost not screw it up. Arch Anima says, I wish I could super chat, but the mods that fly out of my wallet would just laugh at me. That's funny. You get to stay here because you're funny anyhow. I don't care if you super chat. Your jokes crack me up. My wife actually said, between Rehoboth Farm and Arch Enema 67, it really keeps the comment section entertaining. So you guys, my wife actually mentioned you, and she's hot. Karen Hill says, fruiting time difference, cuttings versus seeds. That's a good question. Sometimes seedlings can take a very long time to go, particularly with fruit trees or nuts. Sometimes they don't, but it depends on the species. Generally, cuttings are faster because they think they're more grown up. But usually the tree has to get a certain amount of roots underneath it, so before it feels like it wants to fruit. So usually cuttings are faster. Air layers are usually a way to make things faster too. Air layering is really nice. Randy says, I got some purple sweet potatoes going in the front yard this summer. Let's see what the neighbors think. Oh, they'll say, that's a beautiful ornamental you have there. Bella's Patio Garden says, could try aloe vera. It works on powdery mildew. I did not know that. Cool. It's astringent as well. Maybe it just astringifies them. Alondra says, are you planning to grow apple down there, David? If you do, let us know how it goes. Haven't dared doing it here in Puerto Rico yet. Yeah, if you can get, you should try it. Go to Cuffle Creek Nursery in California. Just like they will ship all over the place. They'll ship directly to Puerto Rico. They will ship you bare root trees. Just order like 4 or 5 or whatever they recommend for Puerto Rico and plant them. Yeah, they're almost certainly going to do something. It's really cool. So I am planning on growing them though. If I can figure out how to get them in. Randy says, can you grow donuts? Seeds don't seem to germinate. When I was a kid, my parents worked for an international students like friendship organization. They worked with international college students, helped them meet Americans, and it was a lot of fun. So we get to meet a lot of people from around the world. But the boss was a really funny guy. We all called him Uncle Bob. And once Uncle Bob mailed us a little baggie full of Cheerios. He knew that I liked gardening, and I was a little kid. And he mailed me and my younger siblings a a little baggie full of Cheerios, and he said they were donut seeds, and he had germination instructions. It was hilarious. We knew it was a joke. I mean, we all cracked up. I mean, some of the little kids probably didn't know, but it was hilarious. So, let's see. I wonder if I can play Wonderwall, because we got that at the beginning. And let's see if we can... I think I got enough super chats that even if they demonetize this video, who cares, right? And let's see if I can do Wonderwall. That's a good one. There we go. Today is gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you. I'm gonna turn this down a little bit so I don't blow it out. Today is gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you. By now you should have somehow realized what you gotta do. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. Backbeat, the word is on the street that the fire in your heart is out. I'm sure you've heard it all before, but you really never had a doubt. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. And all the roads we have to walk are winding, and all the lights that lead us there are blinding. There are many things that I would like to say to you, but I don't know how. Because maybe you're gonna be the one that saves me. And after all, you're my Wonderwall. Today was gonna be the day, but they'll never throw it back to you. By now you should have somehow realized what you're not to do. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. And all the roads that lead you there are winding, and all the lights that light the way are blinding. There are many things that I would like to say to you, but I don't know how. I said maybe you're gonna be the one that saves me. And after all, you're my Wonderwall. I said maybe you're gonna be the one that saves me. And after all, you're my Wonderwall. I said maybe you're gonna be the one that saves me. Gonna be the one that saves me. Gonna be the one that saves me. There we go. Oh, let's see what we got here. She also swings a machete like a samurai. That's right. Thanks for singing backup, Randy. Gonna be the one that saves me. Yes, frizzy hair. Amy K is right. Karen says, I'm going to try and make it to see you in Lauderdale. Can I decide at the last minute, or is there an RSVP cutoff date? The only problem is parking. I'm gonna see if there's an Episcopal church, like a block or two down the road. I'm gonna see if they'll allow us to borrow their parking lot. Maybe it'll be empty and we can use it. And I'm gonna talk to the neighbors because it's gonna be tight. It's a neighborhood. It's a small backyard. It's about a 10th acre. So it's better to go early because there may be a point. We're at 29 last I checked. There may be a point around. I'm 29 that actually signed up for tickets. Now, that doesn't include everybody that's going to be there because some people said, I'm bringing my older parents, I'm bringing my children. So, if you can't, you know what, just show up. But I'd like to see you. Hopefully it's okay. Your south-facing wall. All right, Miles. That's good. That's good. William says, I put out my fruiting plants to get some sun a few days ago and the wind mangled my jostaberry. All the leafy stems are just dropping but haven't died off. They will. They'll get beat. The wind can be nasty. I'm sorry about that. I found that out the hard way when I had my plant nursery. I transported some stuff in the back in a trailer without covering them all first, and they all got burned and wind burned. I had to sit them in the nursery for like months until they regrew and looked nice enough to sell again. So... yeah, let's see what else we got here. Anybody has any more questions? I might sing another song here. I know that we can sing Tina Turner again. We could sing Tina Turner as a 90s song again, guys. Garden City Homestead says, is biochar worth making? That's a very good question. I generally think so. The tests seem to be showing that it is worth making, but the jury is still out of my gardens because I haven't tested it properly yet. So, Randy says, which papaya are the longer radish inside? I think it's Red Lady papaya. She'll only garden at night, the lean vegan type. Nothing is new, I've seen her hair before. Snacking on green beans, oh, she's talking to you, but her eyes are on the broccoli. So many soy drinks inside her fridge. Better watch out, phytoestrogens will make her mad. She is a vegan. Alright, I'm just winging it now. This is a bad idea. We're just going to stop that. Skill Cult. Yes, Nancy, Skill Cult is the bomb. Check out his channel. Alright, guys. I do love Hall & Oates. Yeah, because Hall & Oates sounds like something you would do on a farm. Hall & Oates. Alejandro, that is a very personal question. About 6 to 1. Sasquatch Sagas, nice to see you. Sasquatch Sagas writes novels that are not romance novels that star Bigfoot. How cool is that? And he's on our... He is a novelist, and he's in the thread right now. SasquatchSagas.com. No good non-poisonous method for keeping slugs off seedlings. Ate down every single one as soon as they came up, and moth larvae off kale. If you have more wasps in the garden, like you put up some places for both solitary wasps and like let wasps build nests all over the place, they will help keep the larvae down in the kale. As for the slugs, no, I would go out in the evening as they were just starting to get active with a pair of scissors and slice them into bits or sprinkle salt on them. And I put out beer, and they would come and find the beer overnight and they drown themselves there. So they're alcoholics. All slugs are alcoholics. So yeah, Pat says the best group of people here. I know we got all kinds of people. That's really fun. Nugent. No, I don't know any Mountain Goat songs. I'll have to look it up. I believe in Bigfoot. I actually believe in skunk apes because I have been out in North Florida at night with an SKS rifle hunting hogs, and we encountered something absolutely huge in the bushes in front of us. We got a flashlight on it, and it was gone. It was not a bear, and it was breathing like over my head, and it didn't sound like anything we ever saw. So suddenly all those stories about skunk apes and truckers going down lonely highways at night, yeah, I believe in skunk apes. You don't know what it's like until you're out in just deep Florida wilderness in the middle of the night. Man. Amy K says, what is the best way to attract wasps? Do not have mailboxes, but have some metal roofing. Thought I may make a structure from it. Yeah, you could do that. Look around any buildings that you find, any abandoned places. Where do they build around your house? Make something like that. So, I would like to believe in chupacabra, but I don't. That's a harder one for me. I believe that there were probably pterodactyls in the Wild West because a couple of people apparently shot a couple in the 1800s. I think that there were some sort of dragons or dinosaurs contemporary with man at one point because I read Marco Polo's book, and Marco Polo reports going to a cave in China and seeing them, and there are reports of dragons pulling the emperor's carts and stuff like that. So I think the world is a lot crazier than we think it is. Besides, it wouldn't be any fun if we didn't believe in that sort of thing, did we? Chupacabra believes in you. I believe in Baphemus. Alright. Because you asked. One moment. We will end with this. Unless I'm entertained enough to continue. Alright, here we go. Big wheels keep on turning, carrying home to my kin, singing songs about the Southland. Miss Alabama once again, I think it's sin. This is totally made for the electric. Heard Mr. Young singing about her in his whiny voice. Her old Neil put her down. Well, I hope Young will remember. Southern man don't need him around anyhow. Sweet home Alabama, where skies are so blue. Sweet home Alabama, Lord, I'm coming home to you. Somebody's got to do the solo here. Doesn't sound right when you do it with your mouth. Birmingham, they love the governor. Ooh, 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 we all did what we could do. Watergate does not bother me. Throw in Russiagate too. Tell the truth. Sweet home Alabama, where skies are so blue. Sweet home Alabama, Lord, I'm coming home to you. Whew. All right. Yeah, no, I could add the trumpet sound from the open mic. Sweet home Lager Floor, sweet home Fort Lauderdale. Turn it up. Oh, it's such a hack. It's such a hack on the acoustic. It's just not right. But there we go. Hey, you guys, I am glad we actually pulled this thing off. I thought we were going to lose power. And, you know, I started over half an hour late because we had a kite going to the power line outside. It was flashing. The lights went off and on inside. I turned the computer off, and I just had to wait. So thank you guys for sticking around. And I will catch you guys. I got to make sure I don't miss anybody here. RC says, hi, David. I have old orange trees on the side of the house that were planted and put in maybe around 1990. They've never once bloomed. Duds? Wow. Okay. If they're in the shade, that can be a problem, but they should still bloom. What I would do is go out there with a chain, beat the living daylights out of them with a chain. Just totally beat them to bits. I had an older lady tell me that once. She beat her tree with a chain, caused it all kinds of damage and suffering, and then it decided, I'm going to die. I need to have children before I die. And then it went into fruit. So I would give it a try. I mean, you got nothing to lose. They're not fruiting. The other thing you could do is saw them down and graft on something, and you'll get fruit in a couple of years. Or just hack them. Hack into them, chop them all up, throw a bunch of, you know, fertilizer down on the ground and see what happens. But anyhow, I will catch you guys next time. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to sign up for the Homegrown Food Summit. I've got 2 presentations going into it. There is a link in the description below so you can see them for free. They're coming up just shortly here, actually. I think it's the 12th they start. So sign up now so you don't miss it, and I'll catch you next time. I've got another video coming up tomorrow I think you guys are going to dig. My brother and Lieutenant Nick Cutcay from the fire department built a cane knife machete for me out of an old saw, and my brother Brian filmed it, so that's going to be epic. Anyhow, catch you guys later.